Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a massive shift happening in manufacturing. We're tearing apart the strategy manual for companies trying to move away from just, selling a physical product.
Right. We're diving into this concept called servitization.
Servitization.
It's this transition where manufacturers of, say, durable goods pivot from being just a vendor to being a full-on integrated service provider.
And we're going to be looking at the research, right? The motivations, the roadblock.
Exactly. The surprising cultural hurdles and, the actual strategies that the freight runners are using to succeed.
And this really matters because we're talking about a huge chunk of the economy. Durable goods, think industrial machines. Things that last. That was something like 60% of U.S. industrial production back in 2001.
And their real value isn't just that initial sale.
Right. It's the entire life cycle. What the research calls the installed base, or ID. That's our focus today.
Precisely. And making that shift is, it's a radical restructuring of the business. It's not just an add-on.
So if the potential here is so big, let's start with the why. What's the strategic rationale? Why are companies even attempting this incredibly difficult pivot?
Well, there are three main drivers, but the first one, and really the most compelling, is just the economics.
The money.
The money, exactly. I mean, services just generate much higher margins than products. But maybe more importantly, once you have that installed base, the service revenue is so much more stable.
It's a hedge.
It's a perfect hedge against those, volatile economic cycles that can just crush equipment sales. When the economy dips, people stop buying new machines.
But they have to keep the old ones running.
They absolutely must maintain the ones they already own.
So it's like creating an annuity for a company that's used to living from one big project to the next. That makes total sense. What about from the customer side? Is there pressure there?
Oh, absolutely. That's the second driver. Pure customer demand. Your clients are facing just increasing technological complexity.
And pressure to downsize, focus on their own core business.
Right. They don't want to manage a whole maintenance department anymore. They just want a guarantee of operational uptime. So they're looking to outsource that risk.
So they don't want to buy the cow, they just want the milk.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that leads to the third driver, which is just pure competitive advantage.
And also?
A physical product. Well, it can be reverse engineered, it can be copied. Services, on the other hand, are much less visible, they're complex, they're labor dependent.
It's harder to imitate.
Significantly harder. If you get this right, you build a competitive moat that is almost impossible for your rivals to cross.
Okay, so that sounds like a winning strategy on paper. But we know this transition has been painfully slow for a lot of industry leaders.
Yeah.
If the path is so clear, what are the big roadblocks?
The research points to three successive barriers. And the first one is maybe the hardest because it's not strategic, it's cultural. It's the belief barrier.
What do you mean by that?
Manufacturers and, especially the engineers within them often just don't believe in the economic potential of the service side.
That rings so true. There was that great quote in the sources about the pride of the product engineer.
Yes. It is difficult for an engineer who has designed a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment to get excited about a contract worth $10,000 for cleaning it.
That just summarizes the whole culture clash, doesn't it? Yeah. The glory of the big new shiny thing versus the daily grind of maintenance.
Exactly. So, assuming a company can get past that and management makes the financials undeniable, they hit the next hurdle.
Which is?
The competency barrier. So the firm might finally recognize the market potential, but then they argue that services are outside their core skill set.
We're a product company, not a service company.
Right. The classic example is Digital Equipment Corps, years ago. They initially refused to get into services. They believed their core was just designing computers. They missed a colossal opportunity.
So they see the money, but they're too afraid to go for it. And what's the third barrier, if they do decide to move forward?
That's the deployment barrier. This is where they decide to enter the market, but the strategy fails. It fails because the existing organization, the old structure, actively fights back.
The antibodies come out.
You saw it with Ford. They tried to control post-sale services, but their own powerful independent dealership network just blocked them at every turn. They didn't have the control they needed.
So the fundamental challenge here is shifting from a single transaction selling a thing to a long-term relationship.
And that demands completely new capabilities, new metrics, new incentives, everything that the old product-focused culture is designed to resist.
But the manufacturer has a secret weapon, right? Their unique position with that installed base.
Exactly. Their control over the IB market.
So let's focus in on those IB services, everything from installation to upgrades to decommissioning. It's a market with third-party competitors, too. What do the manufacturers say 3 and 8 advantages here?
Well, their advantages are, like you said, baked right in. First, much lower customer acquisition costs.
Because they're already there.
They're already selling the new equipment. They get instant data on every new piece of machinery that joins the IB. They don't have to go find it.
Okay, what's the second one?
A lower knowledge acquisition cost. I mean, they have this deep, special knowledge about the product, its technology, its service needs. They literally wrote the manual.
Makes sense. And the third?
Lower capital requirements. They already own all the specialized tech to make spare parts or do authorized upgrades. A third party might have to make a huge capital investment just to catch up.
That all seems like a huge strategic advantage. But here's where it gets really wow. So the person who wins Best Maintenance Manager of the Year might actually be the one who hurt the new product sales team's numbers the most?
That is precisely the conflict, and it goes the other way, too. If the product engineers build a machine that's so durable, it lasts forever.
You kill your future service revenue.
Right. And balancing that act requires a level of integration and separation that most traditional firms just find impossible.
So since the challenge is so systematic, the solution has to be too. Let's walk through the successful roadmap. The research shows a clear, sequential pattern. What is stage 1?
Stage 1 is just consolidating the offering. In most companies, services have just sort of popped up all over the place in different departments, often unprofitably.
So the first step is just getting your house in order.
You bring all of it, repairs, parts, training, under a single roof. The goal here is what they call transparency of numbers. You have to make the true size and financial contribution of the service market visible to everyone.
You prove that the belief barrier was wrong with hard data. Okay, then comes the really radical part in stage 2.
Yes. Stage 2 is entering the IB service market. This is the big leap. The organization has to create a separate organization just for services.
A completely separate unit.
Running as its own profit center, with its own sales force, its own metrics, its own IT systems. This separation is absolutely essential.
Why so critical?
It isolates the service people from the cultural bias and the constant competition from the product side. You're literally building a new culture from the ground up.
So the only way to beat that product glory mentality is to build a separate castle for the service team, far away from the engineers.
That separation lets them focus. We saw one industrial conglomerate in the research that realized they were trying to do way too much. IT support, facility management.
Spreading themselves too thin.
Exactly. They had to cut back the width of their service offerings to increase the depth and focus only on services that were directly related to their core products. Stage 2 is all about achieving that focused, profitable depth.
Okay, so once that core service organization is stable and profitable, they move to stage 3, which is expanding the offering. And this happens in 2 directions. Let's start with the vertical one.
Right. The vertical shift is all about moving to a relationship-based model. You change how you price things.
Well, away from just parts and labor.
You move away from that transactional markup and toward a fixed price risk assumption contract. You start pricing things based on operational availability.
You're not selling repairs anymore. You're selling guaranteed performance.
The classic example is Rolls-Royce's Power by the Hour. Airlines pay based on how many hours the engine is operational and available, not just the cost of monitoring it. It's a much more efficient use of your service capacity.
So if vertical is about guaranteed performance, what's the horizontal transformation?
That's moving to be more process-oriented. Here, the value proposition shifts from product efficacy, does the machine run, to product effectiveness.
How well does it work within the customer's larger process?
Exactly. The manufacturer has to become a solution provider, and that requires developing totally new skills like consulting or process engineering to help the customer optimize how they use the machine.
So you're no longer just fixing the machine, you're actually optimizing your client's business. And what about the final stage, stage 4?
That's taking over end-user operations. This is the extreme end of the spectrum. The service organization actually assumes the operating risk and full responsibility for the customer's entire process.
Like running their entire maintenance department for them.
Or even running a whole section of their plant. The sources are pretty clear that for most manufacturers, this is still largely uncharted territory.
Now let's get to the financial reality check. Climbing that value chain must require some very specific investments. What did the survey data show about which services actually move the needle on financial performance?
This is such a critical finding for any manager trying to build out a service portfolio. The simple add-on customer services.
Like a basic phone support line or user training?
Exactly. Those were actually negatively associated with overall financial performance.
Wait, negatively. So providing them actually hurts the bottom line.
In a sense, they're a cost of doing business, they're table stakes. You have to provide them to even be in the game, but they are a drain. They don't generate profit.
So what does? Where's the money?
The services that were significantly associated with positive financial performance and growth were the complex ones. We're talking about maintenance and product support, R&D-oriented services, and those functional operational services we just mentioned.
The hard stuff pays the bills.
Well, complex stuff pays the bills.
So to get into those advanced profitable models, what specific capabilities do companies need to build? What does the research identify as essential?
It really boils down to four distinctive capabilities. The first is business model design. You have to shift to value-driven marketing.
Selling the solution, not the features.
Selling the savings. And that means you have to develop customized risk and revenue sharing agreements. And crucially, you have to build internal tools or demonstrators to actually help customers see the financial benefits.
So it's not enough to know it'll save them money. You have to be able to prove it to their CFO.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the second capability?
That's integrated development. You have to link the product and service development processes right from the very beginning.
So the product is designed to be serviced from day one.
Yes. And even more importantly, you have to implement systems to capture product and use information, remote diagnostics, IoT data.
And feed that data back.
You feed it right back to inform not just the service team, but also future product redesigns. You close the information loop.
You're pulling data from the field straight back to the R&D lab. Very powerful. What's number 3?
Network management. Offering these complex solutions means you can't go it alone. You have to effectively manage your whole ecosystem of suppliers and distributors to share the risk and responsibility.
That sounds complicated.
It is. It means creating new incentives for your partners and often creating specialized relationship management units whose only job is to coordinate these complex multi-party deals.
And the final capability.
Service delivery network management. This is about managing the front line, the network that actually links to your customers.
Your dealers, your distributors.
Right. You have to get systematic about attracting partners with the right service skills, implementing really specialized training programs because these people used to sell machines and now they have to sell outcomes, and giving them strong support with advanced software and diagnostic tools.
This deep dive really shows that this isn't some gentle evolution. The transition to services requires a deliberate, systematic, and, frankly, a massive organizational transformation.
Often including that complete split between the product and service teams, just to overcome those deep-seated cultural barriers. That's the only way to unlock the true financial potential of the installed base.
And this research provides a clear navigational chart for managers who are facing this. We've detailed the stages, we've confirmed which services actually drive revenue, and we've outlined the 4 specific capabilities you have to build at each stage of the journey.
Absolutely. The roadmap is clear, but the implementation is brutal. So here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. Given the extreme risk and the organizational demands of that final stage, Stage 4, taking over a customer's entire operation, what specific attributes, maybe related to risk appetite or the regulatory environment, might determine the reasonable stopping place for a manufacturer on this continuum. When is it wisest to stop short of becoming a pure service provider? Something to mull over as you transition to your next task.